What's up, Mac heads? What's up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about the relations between the Fortray gangsters and the neighborhoods, if you will. And I'm going to try to break that down for you. Let's get off into it.
Welcome to another episode, KM Videos, true stories.
I give a roll, you know what I'm saying? Cruising down the street in my city car. I hit front, back, side to side.
For my love, my dog, the pimp, the hog.
Check it out.
Had this dope, sweatshirt and low.
That was it. I never stopped banging. I started banging hard, then I got so hard till it was a shame.
Welcome to another episode of KM Videos, true stories.
So from my perspective and my experience, the Fortray gangsters are real cool with the Harlem Crips on the west side and the East Coast Crips on the east side. So they have the 430 East Coast thing going. The Rolling 60s and the Harlems are really tight. The Harlems are almost like can be seen as the Godfathers. So the 60s and the 30s always had this tight relationship before there was a Rolling 60s. And so when they formed, we always was tight. And from my understanding, from what Russell Capers, rest in peace, Talib, had told me, is that he added the Rolling to the 30 Harlems to, to signify them being down with and them, having a love for the Rolling 60s. So you got the 30-60 thing going on as well. And, on the west side, the 30s to the 100s are the Rollers, but not necessarily the neighborhoods. And then you had the neighborhoods from the 40s to the 100s. And so that's the west side neighborhood car right there, and the west side rolling car right there. Then you got sets like the Raymonds that's down with us, but are not neighborhoods, and they're not gangsters, obviously. And they're not Rollins, depending on who you talk to, they never associated with the Rollins, but always down with us. We always been down with them, right? Within the neighborhood car, there's always been conflict. That's just something that happens. And because it's too many different sets, and they get out and venture on their own, and different things happen, or you just don't see eye to eye with other communities at some point. But it usually comes back together because we're all family. Now on the east side, the East Coast really come from the Raymond Washington branch, so those are really like the original East Side Crips. Ain't no doubt about it, no way to spin that. East Coast are always looked at as the East Side Crips. Fortray gangsters are one of the original East Side sets with a street and all that, and a direct descendant of Raymond Washington's crew. And so the Fortray East Coast friendship has always been A1, and it goes back to the beginning, Fortray East Side, right? So they always been cool. They always had a relation that's been superb. And you have a lot of other East Side sets that claim gangster. And however they run their car, they run their set is that's them. I can't speak to that. But from the West Side neighborhood perspective, we don't look at everybody as gangsters like that. Yeah, they part of the gangster car, but we don't look at them like that. The Fortray gangsters and the A-Tray gangsters stand out to us. Those are the gangsters, because that's who you're going to get into it with. That's who you're going to have to beef with, but that's also who you always end up having an understanding with. Because that's the rival. That's who you're going to run into. So you're going to either beef and get out, or y'all going to have an understanding. Now, the other gangsters, you got 8-7 gangsters, 9-7 gangsters, and so on that don't get along with Hoover. Fortray gangsters, I'm not going to speak to that, but I know the Fortrays was into it with some Hoovers, probably more so the 5 Deuce Hoovers. But in the 90s In the new Crip module, which was the last module in the county jail, you are aligned, basically you are aligned by the Hoovers and Gangsters and neighborhoods. So anybody that got along with Hoover is gonna be on the road with the Hoovers. Anybody got along with neighborhood, gonna be on the road with the neighborhood. So 4 Trays did fall on the tier with the neighborhoods, but it's because of their close alliance, close relationship with the East Coast Crips. Same with the 8-7s and 9-7s. And the gear gangs. So West LA, Watts, Compton, you know, A-Tray gang, a lot of them dudes, they all on the same tier. On the neighborhood side, it's basically gonna be all neighborhood, whether you east side or west side.
I give a bone ball, you know what I'm saying? Cruising down the street in my city car. Oh, I hit front, back, side to side.
For my glow.
And those that don't get along with Hoover are gonna be on the tier. And so, by the 60s having a close relationship with the East Coast, and the East Coast and 4 Tray all being on the same tier, we're gonna be on the tier with those dudes and develop relationships. You have to remember the crack era. The 4 Trays was all over. They was on the east side and the west side with Dope Spots, Third World, Bird Train, other dudes. And so they moved around. When it came to functions, concerts, the 4 Tray Gangsters gonna come off that east side and come on the west side. So there's always gonna be run-ins and conflict. But through the dope game, and through the motorcycles and car clubs, there's always personal friendships and relationships. Also through YA and the county jail, we develop personal friendships with some of those dudes. So 4 Trays and 60s, they do kick it on an individual basis. No, 4 Trays don't come to no 6-0 hood day. 6-0s don't go to 4 Trays hood day. So it's not like we in bed with those dudes or they in bed with us. You know what I mean? Our run-ins, we bump heads with them often over the time, just based on they trays, they gangsters. Now, when I said that we look at them and the 8 Trays as the gangsters, check it out. The 4 Trays, one of the scrappies, started gangsters movement. That came from the 4 Tray gangsters in the early to mid 90s. That whole gangster movement thing. And then the 8 Trays, you know, they really looked at as the gangsters because a lot of the politics with the gangster car, the Tray car, run through the 8 Tray gangsters and their beef with the West Side neighborhoods. And a lot of dudes got along with East Coast, man. People ain't gonna tell you, but a lot of gangsters got along with East Coast for the longest, man. That's just how it is. East Coast was a big, reputable set. A lot of dudes didn't want to go against East Coast. And the East Coast, quite frankly, was just straight cripping. They was about their cripping. A lot of sets was about cripping first. So I remember I interviewed Nugget from Raymond, and Nugget said, man, Crips are our own. We got to get along with Crips before we get along with anything. And if you go back to the beginning, that's how it was. Crips got along with Crips. Bloods got along with Bloods, and so forth. And so, over the years, alliances change. Politics change, man. Dudes might drop the Crip, or dudes might just not say Crip, you know what I mean? And start to build alliances with Bloods. Crips start getting along with Crips they didn't get along with traditionally. You know, so the politics start to change. But you cannot be neighborhood lovers if you 6090 killer. 6090, along with others, of course, the 40s, 111s, they push neighborhood, but the 60s, a lot of the politics, like through the 8 Tray Gangsters, come through the rolling 60s or formed or formidable because of the rolling 60s. And so all of this stems back to the 8 Tray Gangster rolling 60 war. But I would be remiss to tell you, East Side politics and West Side politics are different. they don't coincide. You know, you may have certain situations where one might agree with the other, but those are totally two different politics. 60 politics and East Coast politics always don't coincide, but we always been tight. You got the biggest West Side set and the biggest East Side set traditionally. They got along, you know, and so I look at, so what I was trying to say is, we look at Avalons as Avalons. We look at Broadways as Broadways. We look at the kitchens as kitchens, and so forth. So we break it down. We don't look at it like, oh, them dudes. 8-7s is like on an island by themselves. Now, they have the East Side politics, so they probably really tight with dudes on the East Side. We don't really, I have never functioned with the 9-7s, don't really know much about the 9-7s as far as the politics go. But you go through Fortray Gangster Hood, you see the O's whacked out. You know what I'm saying? You see 6-0 whacked out, at least back in the day. So I'm speaking historically, I'm not speaking currently. But over them years, from YA to the county jail, car clubs, motorcycle clubs, we done formed friendships. And we cool with each other. And we're not going to let nobody come in between that. Now, every set has their own sets that they love and get along with, and sets that they hate and don't get along with. And so there's always going to be some confusion and some hatred, if you will, or disrespect toward the sets that they don't get along with. But we're old now, we're older now, and these, you know, for us, the gang politics have been minimized, and it ain't that serious to a lot of the older guys. And the younger guys, they always on the front line. They dictate what's what, but you can't help but fall in line with what the older dudes are doing, because if you with your older homies, you're going to see what's going on, and you're going to meet some of the same dudes, whether they're foes, friends, or foes, right? So it kind of, it's a trickle-down effect, whether people want to believe that or not. But no, we never considered the Fortray Gangsters as neighborhood lovers. I never heard nobody in my set, whether it was on the street or in them stoops, say that the Fortrays were neighborhood lovers. Never, ever. And so, you know, East Coast and neighborhoods, but look how many sets that squash they beef with the East Coast, man. A lot of sets don't beef with East Coast no more. But as far as the Fortray Gangsters and the A-Tray Gangsters go, you know, they do their own politics, but they are aligned whether they want to believe that or not. They are aligned in a lot of ways, but then you have the A-Trays and the Inglewood families had their thing going on, and then you have the Pueblos and the Avalons got their thing going on, but the Fortrays don't have nothing like that. Fortrays don't have that. So it's all about Crippin' first. It's all about them trying to keep it as original as they can keep it. You know, they've always got along with the sets that they get along with right now, and some of the sets they used to get along with, they fell out with. But from a West Side neighborhood Crip perspective, we don't view the Fortrays like that. And I just want to mention that because I got a lot of phone calls from my homeboys, and I've seen one of my homeboys call in on somebody's podcast and speak to that. And so off camera, it's a hot topic. On camera, maybe not so hot. But a lot of people are interested in that and wondering, you know, how far that perspective has went and is gone. And so they wanted me to speak to that. And so I'm speaking to that, not to put nobody else down, not to put no sets down, not to up nobody and up no sets, not to take no sides, but only from a neighborhood Crip on the West Side perspective. And that's just it, man. Hey, y'all have a good day, man. I got some Sherm stories coming up at you guys' request. So let me get right to it. Y'all have a good day. Peace.
This is hard.